Well, it's Saturday, and you all know what that means. As you know, it's AEW time. Now, as you probably know right about now, there is no AEW collision for today. So they decided to throw in a show, you can call it a pre show, before, of course, All Out, called Saturday Tailgate Brawl. Now, it features, of course, four matches, featuring one Daniel Garcia versus Shibata, the Opps versus the Workhorsemen. I forgot what was the other one, and then of course we have the 8-woman tailgate brawl match. So that's gonna be a very fun match. And then we jump in with the main pay-per-view, All Out, of course featuring grudge matches, special matches such as of course FTR taking on Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. We have the tables and tacks for between MJF and Mark Briscoe, and of course, most of the championship belts are on the line. For example, of course, the AEW Women's World Championship is on the line in a four-way match. We have, of course, the AEW World Tag Team belt on the line in a four-way match ladder. And then, of course, the AEW World Championship. So we'll see what happens. Who will walk out of their special matches, but also walk out as either new champions or retain. So we will see what happens until then. But also to add the bonus, no news updates for today. So let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anyone where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on a like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the yapping. Let's get cracking. So, let's begin with AEW Saturday Tailgate Brawl. Now, normally with AEW, we will see their pre-show during, of course, the 0 hour, but for some odd reason, this one was televised, and it only features 4 matches. So let's get started with that. The first one we have the Opps, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Samoa Joe taking on, of course, the Workhorse. Excuse me. But this match was pretty good. And of course, one of my favorite moments, as always, when it comes to Samoa Joe, you still see the nope. Yep, so he moves out of the way. But in the end, of course, Samoa Joe walked away with the victory when he applied the Coquito clutch onto and JD Drake. And of course, it was completely over from there. Our next match, we have Katsuyori Shibata taking on Daniel Garcia. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure Shibata, much like, of course, Paragon and few other people, are disappointed with Daniel Garcia aligning himself with Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, which, of course, was something that was going to happen. But apparently, of course, Shibata did everything humanly possible. Not, of course, Daddy Magic got in the face of Garcia, like wanting answers, like what was going on through that skull. But of course, he acknowledges, decided to, of course, not confront him. But I don't know. And then, of course, Marina Shafir getting involved, not entirely, like, maybe like trying to intimidate, but because of this allowed for um, for Daniel Garcia to stomp him, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Our next match, we have an interesting tag team match. Hologram teams up with the members of Paragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, taking on the Frat House, Cole Carter, Griff Garrison, and Princeton Vance. And of course, you know that Paragon and Hologram were in disadvantages due to the fact that the Pledge was right there watching. But luckily, they were able to wipe them out. But in the end, it was, of course, a double foot stomp by Hologram onto Griff Garrison, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, we had an 8-woman tornado tailgate match. That's what it calls on my notes. We have, of course, the members of Triangle of Madness, Sky Blue and Julia Hart. They team up with Penelope Ford and, of course, Megan Bayne. They face against Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, Feel My Wrath, Harley Cramrand, and of course, Willow Nightingale. But of course, a lot of plunder was used in this. I mean, everything that could hurt you, dismantle you, however was gonna be. But in the end, it was, of course, Willow Nightingale with the Dr. Bomb onto Penelope Ford, and just like that, 1, 2, 3. Willow, along with her friends, picked up the victory. So it was a lot of fun. So this is what took place, of course, in the Saturday Tailgate Brawl. So let's move on with All Out. Okay, All Out, this is what we've been expecting. We opened up with tag team action. We have Adam Copeland and Christian Cage taking on Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler FTR, with, of course, that idiot Stokely in tow. Now, of course, there is a bit of disadvantage. It's the fact that Stokely is always getting himself involved in this whatsoever. But of course, there were some great moments where you would not expect. But when Stokely saw that FTR were in a losing disadvantage, he pulled the ref until, out of nowhere, Beth Copeland showed up and speared him and carried him away. But of course, FTR applied the Shatter Machine maybe once or twice in order to do the job, but it failed miserably. But it was, of course, Copeland that was able to pick up the win when he applied the spear onto, I believe it was uh, Cash Wheeler, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, of course, while Christian Cage, Adam Copeland, and Beth were celebrating, out of nowhere, Nick Wayne, along with his mother, Shauna, showed up, and they were attacked from behind. But this is where things got a little bit chaotic. Kip Sabian decided to, of course, handcuff Adam Copeland to the ring ropes, and then, of course, FTR took out Christian Cage. But when Beth was trying to help her out, well, FTR decided to get in the face of Beth Phoenix, and then out of nowhere, these jerk monkeys decided to spike Power Driver, which was disgusting. You know Copeland will get his revenge one way or another. This will not be a long shot, so he probably will declare war between both FTR and, of course, Nick Wayne, Kip Sabian, and Shauna Wayne. So we'll see where that leads us. Now, our next match, we have Big Bill. As you all know, Big Bill called out Eddie Kingston. Calling him out, we weren't too sure if he'd show up, and that's exactly what was happening. Apparently, of course, you saw moments where Big Bill seems like he had this match under his thumb until, of course, Eddie Kingston applied his infamous back fist, which was one of the moves that allowed him to pick up this win. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, Brian Keith decided to attack Eddie Kingston, but out of nowhere, someone put on the hook signal, calling out Hook, and just like that, Hook took out, of course, Brian Keith, and then Eddie Kingston applied a back fist onto him, just knocking him out completely. So it was just like that when it was over. So that's what happens. But later we did see a bit of a hug between both Eddie Kingston and of course Hook. We don't know where that leads, but we could see a new type of mentorship or whatever taking place. But we'll see. Now our next match is a tables and tacks match, MJF versus Mark Briscoe. Now, as you know, MJF has been aiming for Mark Briscoe for obvious reasons because he believes Mark Briscoe doesn't deserve to be at the top of the mountain. He even crossed the line by calling out about his late brother Jay Briscoe. And you know this is a match that is specialized into what Mark Briscoe along with his late brother Jay handled. With all these type of matches, the tables and then thumbtacks. Oh my God, there was also blood coming out of MJF's, you know, gonads out of the blue. But in the end, it was of course Mark Briscoe that walked away with the win when he applied, of course, the J Driller on top of Tax, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, this was a grudge match from the very start. Ricochet, along with the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan, and Teo Leona, have been at war with the Hurt Syndicate. Well, mostly coming from Ricochet. Ricochet's history with them dates back a couple years ago, prior before going to AEW, and now Ricochet gets a bit of a measure of revenge for what happened back then. And of course, we know that they will do whatever it takes to win, not only by cheating, but making sure things go their favor. And of course, in the end, it was Ricochet that used the spirit gun onto MVP, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But the real question we ask ourselves, is this over between both sides? That's something I would know, because I feel like Ricochet would treat like it is over, but Hurt Syndicate's not going to let that slide one way or the other. So we'll see what happens on this coming Wednesday. Now our next match is the TBS Championship. Mercedes Moné defends her belt against Riho, who is in fact the first ever inaugural AEW Women's World Champion. And this is something that Mercedes Moné knows that she has to face. Now, of course, she had to learn a few things from her, because you cannot deny that Rio's size is very stronger than any other thing. I mean, Rio did everything humanly possible to take out Mercedes Moné, but in the end, it was the moneymaker that made the difference for Mercedes Moné. 1, 2, 3, she retained the championship, and it was over just like that. Now our next match is for the AEW Unified Championship in a three-way. We have Mascara Dorada, Konosuke Takeshita, and Kazuchika Okada facing each other. However, you know this is a very interesting matchup because we know there has been some level of how do I put this? Who is the bigger Japanese star in AEW? And that is, of course, between Okada and Takeshita. But in the end, of course, it was Okada with the Rainmaker onto Hologram, and just like that, it was over. Now, a part of me would think that maybe Kyle Fletcher is going to say that it's going to be Konosuke Takeshita to be kicked out. I'm not sure, but we'll see where that leads us to there. Now, our next match is the Coffin match. We did see, of course, Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin. Now, this thing dates back last year when Jon Moxley tells Darby Allin to give him the opportunity of the AEW World title that happened at some point last year. But, of course, Darby refuses to do so. And Darby came back to get a bit of a measure of revenge against the Death Riders, and he did. And now Jon Moxley has to acknowledge that Darby Allin is nothing but a prop. But, of course, the Death Riders didn't do anything. We know Marine Shafir did whatever it takes to win, to be there. But, however, it seems that Jon Moxley had an ace up his sleeve, and that ace was none other than Pac, who we haven't seen for quite some time, and he did. And then, of course, this allowed for Pac to put Darby Allin in a body bag and then put him in a coffin, and just like that, Jon Moxley won the match. And then we did see, of course, the Death Riders carry the coffin out. But yeah, that's what really happened during that time. Now, Mark Briscoe, along with members of the conglomeration, Paragon, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly. Well, I don't know if Kyle Strong considered himself as a conglomerate, conglomerate. Um, Hologram, Willow, and Harley Cameron. Well, apparently Mark Briscoe said to send their top guys, three guys, to face them this Wednesday. So Mark decided to team up with Hologram and one more person. But Willow asked, "Who is the other person?" Oh, that's a good question. And of course, the entire time Kyle O'Reilly was on the phone, Briscoe turns to him saying, "Hey, Kyle, tell me he's ready to come back." He said, "Whatever." Does anybody know what that means? Oh, yes. We could see freshly squeezed come back. That's going to be a lot of fun to enjoy. I'm looking forward to that. Now, our next match is the AEW Women's World Championship in a four-way. Tekla versus Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm. Now, remember, of course, Jamie Hayter is a former AEW Women's World Champion. Chris Statlander, former TBS champion. Well, Tekla, well, we know her reputation, all of that. But, dude, you know this match was going to be brutalized no matter what it was going to be. Whoever was going to walk out. But I was not too sure how this was going to go. But there was a moment we did see Wheeler Yuta was trying to give advice to Chris Statlander. I'm sure Chris Statlander's like, whatever, dude. Like, he probably doesn't want nothing to do with him. But in the end, we did see Chris Statlander use a move that's been recognized by Wheeler Yuta, and that is the seatbelt. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to take credit for it, but Chris Statlander was the one who picked up the win onto Toni Storm, and just like that, brand new AEW Women's World Champion. So we'll see what happens with her down the road. Now our next match, which is the semi-main event, is the AEW World Tag Team Belts in a ladder match four-way. We have the Young Bucks, Don Callis family, Josh Alexander and Heiji Seto, Jet Speed, and of course the champions, Brodito. This match was so brutalized in every way possible. You wouldn't expect how this was going to go, how this was going to play out. I was like, whoa, that is crazy how it was going to be. But however, of course, this match ended with Brodito picking up the win by pulling down the belts. However, of course, during the post-match, out of nowhere, Jack Perry attacked, of course, the Bucks. As you know, there's been some very dissension between the two. And then, what happened? Rocky tried to help, but it didn't do any good. And then, out of nowhere, when they have him positioned for the BTE trigger, well, he smiled. No one knew what it was. There were people that commented that who was the doctor that rose kill switch from the grave, and it turned out it was none other than Jack Perry. And Jack Perry, as you know, reunited with Luchasaurus, no longer calling himself Kill Switch. And just like that is over. Can't wait to see what's going to happen down the road with them. Now our main event is the AEW World Championship. Kyle Fletcher makes his first attempt against Hangman. You know this was going to be brutalized no matter what. Kyle Fletcher will try to soften up Hangman, but it did not do any well for him until at some point he applied a buckshot lariat, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. So ended very beautifully right there. So we'll see what happens next time. But as of right now, we are officially done with our reviews. We have no news updates for today. So let's call it a day. Alright, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Now, I failed to mention something that was on my notes during the AEW before the main event. If you guys saw it, John Moxley had the coffin right in the back, and he said that he was going to have a little chat with Darby Allin. And of course, Darby Allin out of nowhere. Well, before then, John Moxley sent the Death Riders away, giving him time to be with Darby until Darby attacked him with the hammer and then put him in a body bag. And then he was about to use the hammer until he saw something like a flammable liquid, and then he tried to burn him alive. We don't know what the extent to that was going to happen, but this is a measure of what's been happening with Darby Allin when it comes to Death Riders. So we'll see what happens. Now, for the next episode, I'm not 200% sure what I'm going to do because right now my head is not in the perfect order, so we'll see what happens. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bam.